Uh, good morning or evening, whatever time you are looking at this. My name is Charlene Manning. I'm a Leon County Master Gardener, and we are doing the Lunch and Learn series right now. And the one we're going to do today is companion planting. And when I was kind of excited when I was asked to do this, because I've always been interested in companion planting. I have done some companion planting accidentally, not anything that I've ever really done on purpose, that just kind of ended up that way. So with being asked to do this, it gave me every excuse in the world to dive into this matter deeply, and of course collect more books. So anyway, so that is what we're going to do today, is companion planting. Okay, companion planting. If you don't know what this is, I've got the definition up here for you. Companion planting is matching plants that can benefit each other, whether they are flowers, vegetables, fruits, or herbs. Which I didn't realize, like fruits, companion planting under your fruit tree. So when I was doing the research on this, you can actually companion plant under your fruit and nut trees. Now, this is a very complex subject. I keep thinking those people. This is a very complex subject. So I kept this very simple today, because you can go into depth how deep you want to, or just do it real simple. Like basically that's what I'm going to be talking about today, because it can be overwhelming. But companion planting, it adds diversity to your garden. So when you increase your diversity, it's a natural way to avoid pests from wiping your garden out. Companion planting is an old way of planting. We don't really do that anymore, or it's not as common anymore. It used to be real common because it added nutrients to the soil, and it used to be the certain plants complement each other that add nutrients to the soil, make for better yields, and it was a natural pest control. And before pesticides and all of that, that was the best way that they could control pests in the garden. It also helps to minimize diseases. So today, with talking about companion planting, I have something for everybody today. So whether you're interested in vegetables, flowers, herbs, or bulbs, I am going to go over everything that you can companion plant with each one of those. So, what business, we're going to kind of talk about flowers first. So what business does flowers have taking up room in the garden? Flowers pull more than their weight in the garden by attracting pollinators and beneficial insects. So the flowers is what you're going to draw your pollinators and beneficials into your garden. That's what's going to draw them in there, is the flowers, is your flowers. The basic idea is to let nature provide the pest control, pollination, nutrition in our gardens. The benefits of companion planting is it saves space. You can plant a vining plant over a tall plant. You can plant a quick growing crop between the rows of a slower growing crop. It attracts beneficial insects. It shelters and supports each other against like wind and sun. It helps keep the soil moist and prevents erosion. It helps with diseases. It boosts the ecosystem by growing more healthier plants naturally. Like I said, earlier, some beneficials work together with others to help you get more yields, and the companion plants work together in order to enrich your soil. Companion planting is easier, less stressful, and more cost-efficient way to garden. So there again, it does a double purpose in planting. It's decorative, it's a food source, and it protects other plants. So the decorative part of it is you get to walk out in your garden and see all these pretty colors. You can pick the flowers to bring in the house to put in vases. If you're growing herbs, of course, you can go out and pick your herbs and use for cooking or dry them for later use in the winter. It's a food source, of course. Your vegetables and can be ate out of the garden. It protects other plants when you companion plant by shading plants. It deters weeds, and it, of course, draws in your beneficial insects. So bringing flowers and herbs into your garden is the steps to do that is pretty easy. You want to think small at first. So you just designate a small space in your garden. You're going to want to use annual plants. That way, with having crop rotation, you don't have any perennial plants in there when you're doing the next year's garden, when you're doing crop rotation. A good ratio on if you want a companion plant is 40% flowers and herbs and 60% vegetables. So you want to keep your flowers and herbs cut regularly for steady production. Of course, we know that on herbs, and anybody that grows herbs, you've got to keep your herbs cut in order for them to do well. And the same thing for your flowers. The more you cut them, the more flower production you'll get. There again, you want to use annuals also produce most of your square footage. And following this ratio will increase following the ratio of 40% flowers and herbs and 60% vegetables, will increase your pollinators, your beneficial insects, and your supply of blooms. Now this may be a little bit of the hard part in companion planting. Discipline, it will be necessary when planting a companion garden. You will need to remove a declining crop in order to replace it with a fresh crop. Companion planting is considered a working garden and not a landscape bed. And that means that you do need to go, your flowers need to be cut, your herbs need to be cut, so it's not going to be like looking out in your flower bed and sitting on the porch saying how pretty your flowers are. You do need to keep that rotating in order to keep it producing. I did put an exception down there for if you're saving seeds or feeding wildlife, of course. You want to maybe let some of it go to seed, and so to feed the wildlife. So we have gone over what is companion planting, why would we even want to companion plant. So now we're just going to hit on how to companion plant and go over a few vegetables and flowers and herbs that you can companion with. So when you think of companion planting, two things to me come to mind. Two of the most popular. The first one being the Three Sisters. And the Three Sisters, if no one is familiar with that, is an old ancient way of gardening that the American Indians did, where they planted corns, beans, and squash. And that they would plant the corn would grow up tall, then the green beans would climb up the corn stalk, and then squash underneath it would be shaded. It would shade would shade the ground and prevent weed growth. The other companion plant that you think of just right off the bat is marigolds. A lot of people know that marigolds in the garden, or even in your flower bed, of course, are really good. You want to plant the tall variety of marigolds if you want to companion plant. And not the shorter version. But marigolds are very easily grow from seed. I have never grown them from seed, but I'm going to try it since I read and said that it's easy to grow. They do need full sun, which if you're growing vegetables in your garden, you've already got that, your garden in full sun. They draw many beneficial insects. Nematodes are discouraged that attack potatoes, strawberries, and roses. Tomatoes interplanted with marigolds will grow and produce better. So marigolds are one of those plants that help your tomatoes produce a lot better. And of course they help to deter weeds. You can, planting marigolds from seed, you can direct seed sow them on the ground, and they will come up. Also, if you want to cut some marigolds for a cut flower, be sure to cut them before they fully open, and then bring them in the house, let them open up completely in the house, and the flower should last for 10 to 12 days if you don't wait till they're fully open. Of course, if anybody knows about cutting flowers, you certainly know to cut your flowers in the morning before it gets so hot, and that will help them last longer too. So we'll move on to, like I said, I'm going to keep this very, very simple. We're just going to go over a few vegetables that you can plant, herbs and flowers, companion plant with, and but I'm also going to say there are a lot of don'ts in companion planting. There are a lot of plants that do not grow well together. I am not going to go over the don'ts today because I didn't want to give you so much information that you were just mind-boggled before you got through with this. So I'm going to just go over 4 vegetables, common vegetables in the garden, and the companions that do work well. And if you want to start small, use one of these to companion plant with, and then the resources out there for companion planting is just unbelievable. It's just endless. At the end, I will give you the resources that I used for this program, and it will give you all the don'ts of not planting together. But I did not want to have all these slides and give you do's and then the don'ts, and so we're just going to keep it simple, simple, simple today. So, of course, we're going to start with tomatoes. Everybody grows tomatoes. And you can see here on this slide that this person planted the marigolds with tomatoes there, and I don't know, that was just such a pretty picture to me. So anyway, so companion planting with your tomatoes, you can plant beans, you can plant borage. People not familiar with borage, borage is an herb. You can plant chives, you can plant nasturtiums, oregano, sage, sunflowers, and zinnias. And those are definitely ones that will grow together with tomatoes. And so the beans actually do add nutrients to the soil and helps improve the yield of your tomatoes. Chives are good to bring in the pollinators, and chives also help with diseases. Nasturtiums for us is a fall plant, a fall and early spring. By the time it gets good and hot here in Texas, nasturtiums are just going to wilt and just fade away. So, and then who wouldn't love sunflowers in their garden? They really can perk up a garden big time. Zinnias are wonderful, and zinnias will last. The hotter it is, the better zinnias like it. So now we'll move on to cucumbers and squash. So some companion plants for your cucumbers and squash are beans, chamomile, corn, dill, nasturtiums again, radish, sunflowers, and zinnias are better to plant around your squash plant than they are around your cucumbers. Not that they don't work together, but just the way the zinnia grows and the cucumbers grow. So there you have some for cucumbers and squash, some companions. Beans. So with beans, you can grow corn. There you go back to the Seven Sisters. Cabbage, carrots, cucumbers, marigolds, potato, and tomatoes. So I have actually, with my beans, now I grow a bush green bean and not a vine green bean. And I have, this is how I've inadvertently have companion planted and didn't realize that's what I was doing. I like to plant my sunflowers in between my beans. I let my beans get up just a little bit, sprout up just a little bit, then go beside them and plant sunflowers. And I've actually had my bean crop last just a little bit longer because the sunflower kind of shades the green beans. But when I always have to have sunflowers. Sometimes I run out of room, and that's what I'll do when I run out of room is I'll plant sunflowers with my beans. Peppers. So with your bell peppers or any pepper, you can plant basil, chamomile, marigold, nasturtium, oregano, sunflowers, yarrow. I don't know if everybody's familiar with yarrow, but yarrow is an herb, and garlic. So anyway, I'm really interested in trying something for me to companion plant with my peppers, and I haven't decided what I might do because it is so hard to keep peppers going during the hot weather. And I'm just wondering if you grew something like the sunflower gets tall, yarrow gets a little bit tall, and basil can also. If that would kind of help keep the sun off of your peppers. I'm going to try that and see. I have a tendency to lose my peppers late in the season and can't keep them going. So those are the vegetables that I thought that we would with today's program, I'd just kind of start small. Just try not to, and get what works for you and then just kind of venture out from there. But I knew almost everybody grew tomatoes and squash and cucumbers and peppers in their garden, so I thought those were 4 good vegetables to start with. So now we'll move on to the beneficials of when you can companion plant, the beneficials that are in your garden, or that you will attract to your garden by companion planting. And I wanted to do some different beneficials, not the ones that you just automatically think of as beneficial. Sometimes people don't think of these, the pictures that I have up here as beneficials, but they really are. So beneficials in your garden, they prey upon the garden pests of all kinds. They patrol 24/7. So you've got, if you have any of these in your garden, you've got an army in there working for you 24/7. They don't become resistant like pesticides do. They are the most effective pest control. They find pests before we can, which I thought when I read that, I was like, well, I never even thought about that, but they live out there, so yeah, I guess they kind of would find pests before we do. And they do not cost anything, and of course you're helping the ecosystem by not adding unnecessary pesticides. We'll go over the pictures. I know everybody's eking, but I want you to keep an open mind just for a few minutes here. Your garden spider. I know people don't like spiders, but spiders just they are just so good to to eat insects in your garden. I love it when I get those big old banana spiders. I haven't had one in a while, but I really always love it when I have one of those in the garden. This is just a little garden snake over there on the right there. When I went to, I wanted to definitely use the snake as a beneficial because snakes are good at catching mice and voles. They also eat a wide range of insects. They can wipe out a rodent family in weeks. They can devour your grasshopper population. And what I really liked, and I should have put this in quotes, but I didn't. They don't dig, chew holes, or damage plants in any way. And they carry very few diseases. So I really wanted to include the snake because people are all the time killing them. And really they are very worthy of living in our gardens. Now I realize that you really don't want to live with a copperhead or a rattlesnake or a water moccasin, but these little garden snakes, I mean, they're perfectly fine in your garden. When I went to look this up on the internet, I actually put in when I wanted to insert a picture, I actually put in pictures of cute snakes because I was I have got to find a neat snake picture to put up there, and I thought that one fit the bill. Of course, I went on and put the ladybug. Everybody knows about the wonderful ladybug, and she is really the poster child of all the good bugs. They are, I'm sure as most people know, they are aphid eaters. And one way that you can spread ladybugs from one part of your garden to the other is just by getting a piece of paper and sprinkling some ladybugs on that paper, and take that to another part of your garden and then just drop them off on a plant. And you can spread them around that way if they're not kind of spreading around fast enough for you if you'd like them someplace else. I also wanted to use the praying mantis. So many people hate the praying mantis, and the praying mantis is an insect killing machine. Now look at that face. Only a mother could love that face on that praying mantis. But they are also very camouflaged in the garden, and so they can just sneak up on insects and stuff. I will warn you, of course, most people don't have most people don't have hummingbird feeders in their garden. They usually hang them up under their porch or under trees and stuff. But I will warn you, if you haven't had this happen to you, a praying mantis will kill a hummingbird just as well as they'll kill another insect. I've been feeding hummingbirds now for 25 years, and last year I had, and never had this happen, last year I had a praying mantis on one of my hummingbird feeders, and he'd been there for about a day, I guess. I didn't think anything of it, and the next evening I was sitting out on the porch just looking around at my flower beds and stuff, and I thought I kept hearing a hummingbird in distress, but I just really wasn't for sure. And I got up and walked to one of my hummingbirds, and this praying mantis had a hummingbird clenched upside down, and that poor thing, he had just, well, it was too late when I got to the hummingbird. But anyway, I was like, this had to be a freaky fluke of some kind. So I went in the house and I looked up praying mantis attacking hummingbirds, thinking I would get nothing from that, and just all this information just came up. And so you do need to be careful if you see a praying mantis on your feeder. I just knocked him off the feeder that day. Thought I could save the hummingbird, but I couldn't, and didn't think any more of it. Well, the next morning, that praying mantis was back on my hummingbird feeder, so I did kill him. But anyway, just a little tidbit on praying mantis, but I don't want you to be scared of them or anything. I mean, I know people hate those things, but they really are good to keep around. Other beneficials that, are common that, you know, I just wanted to kind of do a couple of the uncommon are birds. Of course, I know birds get in your garden and peck at some of your vegetables sometimes, but frogs, soldier beetles, ground beetles, and dragonflies are other good beneficials. So now we'll just go over pollinators real quick. Pollinators, you need to plant plants in masses instead of scattering around the yard. That way the pollinators can see it better that way than just putting a little bit here and a little bit there. Just do big mass plantings of plants. Provide plants that generate nectar and pollen. Provide a safe nesting habitat where pollinators can live and raise their families. On the internet and in books, there's tons and tons of little nesting things that you can make that you could hang in your garden or hang around in your flower bed that will kind of help keep your pollinators around. Be sure to provide water year-round. Plant native plants. That way they support native pollinators. A lot of pollinators do not go to non-native plants, so you want to keep that in mind. There again, I did a couple of that you may not think that pollinate. Hummingbirds are good pollinators, butterflies, and of course I had to put the bumblebee there. I don't know about everybody else right now, but in my yard, bumblebees are going crazy over everything. I mean, I just have them everywhere, all in my yard. Some other flowers that, you know, I couldn't just sit here and do just slide after. I didn't want to bore you with that. But some other flowers that you can companion plant in the garden is celosia. This is also known as coxcomb. This is the bushy type. There's another type of celosia that looks more like a chicken's cone or whatever. I think this is going to be your better pollinator variety. Pot marigold is also another one. That's also considered an herb also, the pot marigold. It is more of a fall plant for us, a fall and early spring. It's not going to make it through the summer here. So you definitely want to think about that one being more of a fall plant. Cosmos, snapdragons, of course snapdragons are a fall and early winter and early spring plant for us. Bachelor buttons, and a lot of people don't think about black-eyed Susans as being planted in the garden or really in your landscape. Black-eyed Susans are really good. You can kind of keep them where they're kind of look full by cutting them back and keeping them trimmed, but they do make a pretty landscape plant other than just out in your pastures and stuff. Herbs for you herb people. Some good companion planting herbs is thyme. There's feverfew, which I had, no, it was yarrow I had mentioned before. Feverfew is a good little herb, and it's beautiful little white daisy looking little flowers. Lemon balm and comfrey. Lemon balm is one of my favorite herbs to grow. To kind of keep it neat and tidy after a hard day, or if you overate supper, you can go out and just pick you a few leaves of lemon balm, pour boiling water over it, and make a tea. It is very, very delicious tea. It helps calm the digestive system, and it's a wonderful herb to have around. And comfrey. Comfrey is another old herb that was used in the early century that a lot of people don't much grow anymore, but it's got a beautiful little flower that hangs down, the little purple ish flower. It gets pretty big. So now bulbs. I got this from Ann McCormick. As anybody knows, she's the cowgirl herb lady. I got right after I was asked to do this, I got a newsletter from her, and she was couldn't find her bulbs anywhere. She forgot where she planted them. So she was like, hey, I'm going to write an article, and she did. And anyway, she started out with, Kate, remember where you planted your bulbs? Well, plant shallow root herbs on top of your bulbs, and you'll know not to come back. I don't know, I always forget where I plant my herbs, and I go to, my bulbs. I go to plant something else, and you hit the shovel to something. It's like, oh yeah, I planted narcissuses there or something. So anyway, some shallow root bulbs that shallow herbs that you can plant is thyme, mint, winter savory, chamomile, and oregano, and you can just plant those right on top of your bulbs, and the root system will not interfere with the bulbs or the bulb's root system, and so you will always know that where your bulbs are planted. If anybody has never grown winter savory, that is really just because it says winter savory, don't underestimate it. It's a wonderful little herb to grow. It's compact, it has a cute little leaf on it, and it does quite well here. I really, really like it. So I thought, well, while we're doing this, nobody ever knows what the frost-free dates and the dates are. They tell you that you should always know your dates, and nobody ever knows what they were. So I decided I would sneak it in here, and so this is just many years. This first one definitely is not true a lot of times, but it gives you a guideline to go by. So our first frost day could possibly be November the 16th, and our last frost date could possibly be March the 16th. And that kind of gives you a guideline there on when to plant your garden or your flower bed. And we have 242 days of growing, of the growing season. So I wanted to just be sure to include that on the program. Okay, this is where I got a lot of my information for this program. I always wanted the book Roses Love Garlic and never really had a reason to buy it. So this gave me a reason to buy it. I did not realize there was a Carrots Love Tomato book that they go together. But anyway, these are the 3 books that I used in order to get the information from this program. And I did do other stuff on the internet, but mostly I did use these. So I'll just kind of break the books down for you, because you may not be interested in all 3, you only may be interested in one, but these is a good place to start. They have all the information, the do's and the don'ts. They have each plant done, categorized, a listing. Carrots Love Tomatoes. They have the listing of all the vegetables, herbs, wild plants, fruit trees, and nut trees that you can companion plant with. So this one, the Carrots Love Tomatoes, is more in the line of vegetables, if that's where you lean. The Roses Love Garlic tends more to the flower aspect of it. So a lot of the chapters in that book are flowers with herbs mixed in, with vines, growing wildflowers from seed, drying flowers. There's a section in there if you're interested in natural dyeing fabric, on using vegetables and flowers for natural dyeing. And there's a few cosmetic recipes in there on growing flowers in your herbs. It has a few very interesting recipes, and a lot of recipes with roses and cosmetics, like a facial astringent with making rose water and that type of thing. The Vegetables Love Flowers is pretty much all dedicated to flowers. I got most of my vegetable information out of the Carrots Love Tomatoes book, but it is a wonderful, if you're interested in growing a flower garden, it's a wonderful book to get a lot of information on that. It has the listing of the flowers by seasons, which was really good. And of course, it goes in link about your pollinators and your beneficials on that. I didn't get a picture of this, but another thing that is because I was going to pass it around and just let everybody look at it, and I don't know if I would have gotten a picture if it would have done it any good anyway. But there is a little sliding vegetable scale that you can get. It's called Clyde's Garden Planner, and you can just look up Clyde as in CLYDE Garden Planner. You can look it up on the internet just by putting that in and it'll come up. It's about $5, I think, is what I paid for it. On one side is spring, on the other side of the little slide is fall, and what you do is you go and you slide where your average frost date is, be it spring or fall, and you put that on that date, and it'll give you, it's got onions, peas, squash, cabbage, cauliflower, beets, potatoes, broccoli, you know, all the vegetables pretty well down there, and you put it on that date. It gives you the last day that you can plant those plants and to get a harvest. And at the end of it, it has all, now this is strictly vegetables, it gives you all the companion planting that along the, at the very end, like onion sets. It says you can plant carrots, lettuce, spinach, and tomatoes as a companion plant. So there's you another, like I said, I think this thing was $5. This gives you another list of do's that you know for sure that you can companion plant. But it gives you all kinds of information, how far apart to plant the plants. It's just a neat little guide. And anyway, so if you're interested in something really cheap and want to companion plant, you can look that up on the internet and get it. And anyway, so and I guess that concludes it. That's all I got.